What's up, guys? I am Constant, and it is time for an updated DPS tier list. Alright, so Havoc, Enhancement, Frostmage, and DPS Warriors all received a 3% damage buff, as well as Assassination, Destruction, Frost Decay, and Survival and Beast Mastery Hunters receiving 5% damage buffs. On the right, you can see the overall DPS for Castle Nathria over the past week. Balance, Affliction, and Fire have remained dominant for a while now, and that doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. Everything on the bottom half of these meters is receiving a buff aside from Sub-Rogue and Arcane Mage, but for some of these specs it seems unlikely that it will change their standing in the ranks too much. Beast Mastery and Survival are pretty far behind in Raid right now, as are Arms, Frost Decay, Destruction, and Arcane Mage. So here are the DPS rankings for Castle Nathria from Icy Veins and WoW Meta. I included both of these because they were both updated yesterday, yet they have some significant differences. I recommend not taking these too seriously, as a lot of the positions on these lists are inconsistent with in-game data, but averaging these lists out does paint a more accurate picture of the current DPS rankings in Raid. Alright, so Balanced Druids are going to be happy, again. The top performers in Raid are Balanced Druid, Affliction Warlock, and Fire Mage, followed by Feral, Windwalker, Shadow, Unholy, Marksmanship, Outlaw, and Elemental. It's difficult to predict exactly where these 10 specs that were just buffed by 3 to 5% are going to land, but in my opinion, it's pretty unlikely that their ranking is going to change too much. I don't really see any of these specs finding themselves in significantly higher places than they are right here. There's still a lot of tuning that needs to be done, but Blizzard is taking a different approach this expansion, and they're doing it bit by bit. Part of me is actually really happy about the way Blizzard is doing balance changes this expansion. It's nice knowing that it's very unlikely for your spec to get nerfed into oblivion, but at the same time, it does seem like they have a very laid-back approach to class balance. And it's not such a problem in PvE, at least in my opinion, but obviously there are some really big problems in PvP, and if Blizzard's version of class balance this expansion is going to be taking a class that's doing twice as much damage as they should be and decreasing their overall damage output by a couple percent, it's going to be a long expansion for PvPers. Alright, let's talk Mythic Plus. The most represented DPS specs in the top 100 keys are Balance, Fire, Outlaw, Windwalker, and Marksmanship. Surprise. In plus 15s and higher, Unholy, Shadow, Affliction, and Havoc are also among the most common. Obviously, utility plays a much higher role in Mythic Plus groups than in Raid, so it's not always a matter of who can do the most raw damage, especially with affixes like Spiteful. When we pushed KSM 2 weeks ago, we did our best to be as lenient as possible with the specs that we brought. We were doing 15s and 16s, so we obviously didn't have to be as obsessive as the people who were pushing 20s and higher, but it was a very interesting experience. We pugged all of our DPS for KSM, and I learned a lot about quite a few things. You'd be amazed how many 1400 IO, 220 plus item level players there are out there who do 3k DPS, sit right next to Spitefuls until they die, or they use Hero when the debuff has 10 seconds left on it. Shout out to that mage. We did meet some exceptional players, shout out to my boy Stum, and now I get to ride around on a 25-foot tall ghost. So it was all worth it. Icy Veins is back, and this time with a slightly more agreeable list. There are definitely still some issues here that I see, Elemental being in the bottom 5. Elemental has some excellent utility in keys, especially when it's played super well, and Sub being in the top 5 is equally questionable to me, maybe even more so. Arcane Mage has one of the lowest representations of any spec in keys over 15 and over 10. Putting them above Havoc and Frostmage is just really questionable to me. It's not all bad here though. Fire Mage and Marksmanship are undeniably strong in keys, as is Outlaw. This is the lowest ranking I've seen of Boomkin in Mythic Plus, but maybe the people at Icy Veins are just really tired of putting Boomkin at the top of every single rankings list in Shadowlands. I love Boomkins. I'm really happy to see them having their time in the spotlight. I do appreciate all the innervates, and man, who doesn't love getting hit by those 50k convokes? Alright, so the top performers in Mythic Plus are going to be Balanced Druid, Fire Mage, Outlaw Rogue, Windwalker Monk, and Marksmanship Hunter. Windwalker's spot is mostly earned by their damage output, which is absolutely ridiculous right now. We had a Pug Windwalker in one of our KSM runs who was pulling over 7k DPS overall. Dude was absolutely killing the entire run. The only problem was he also kept backing into random groups of ads and messing up our prideful route, but I'm not even being sarcastic when I say that he more than made up for it with his damage output. Unholy is obviously an AoE DPS powerhouse, but like Windwalker, they are hindered by affixes like Spiteful and Storming. But DKs don't have Ring of Peace. Shadow Priest, Affliction Warlock, Havoc Demon Hunter, they're all very strong in keys as well. And in general, the main difference between S tier and A tier in Mythic Plus is going to be utility. Spiteful will always make groups nervous to bring melee DPS. Sorry, melee DPS. And it's even going to make groups nervous to stray from the balance fire marksmanship comp. But unless you're pushing higher than 18s, you're probably going to be just fine without clinging desperately to the meta. We were, so I would like to imagine that other people would be totally fine as well. Assuming your group members are competent players, you just shouldn't have that many problems. I think it will be interesting to see how specs like Survival and Enhance adjust to their new buffs. And I'm holding out hope for Assassination. I really am. I'm really looking for an Assassination Rogue comeback. It's one of my favorite DPS specs to play, because I'm not particularly good at Rogue, but it makes me feel like I'm good at Rogue. But I feel like those hopes might be reaching a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and check me out on Twitch. And as always, thanks for watching.
Also, this beautiful, lovely lady that's next to me that I know you absolutely love because you love abominations is also really helpful.
Oh my god. Why is it wearing a pirate hat?
Because you can give them hats.
That's honestly amazing.
I just don't understand
You
it.
can give them little accessories. She also has a bird on her shoulder.
Be right back, switching Covenants and Necrolord for the A-bomb with the hat. Sure.
Senior, I'm going to take away...
But,
Oh wait, no, I'm actually not, because you didn't do a shout out, so I'm not reading that.
here, check this out.
If you do a shout out, I'm probably still
She
not reading.
does like a 10% health heal with a 2% per second heal over time. So it's really helpful for just like world content.
Yeah, but then you have to look at this thing all the time. That is horrifying.
Well, I played Undead in Warcraft 3. I love Scourge stuff, so like I'm immune to the disgusting factor. I love that stuff.
I am very much not immune.